Welcome to Gay USA. I'm Andy Hum, coming to you from Chelsea.
Mick Meenan coming to you from the studio.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to spare Mick and the people in the studio because I've been sick all week. I'm getting over it. And Ann has not completely gotten over it, though she's getting better. She wants you to know I'll be, she's alive and okay, and we'll be back next week, but needed a break after 8 straight weeks of doing the show after surgery. She hopes to see people at the Drag March in New York on Friday, Tompkins Square Park, 7:30, and the Queer Liberation March on Sunday, 11 a.m. at the AIDS Memorial, and we're going to march uptown. But she says she'll do that if she can stop coughing. So, welcome. Hi, Mick.
Hi, Andy. It's a pleasure to see you. I'm thinking of Ann, and happy Pride to everyone.
Everyone. Let's talk about what's on the news this week. So it is big news out of Washington. The Democrats picked out gay Robert Garcia as the ranking member of the powerful House Oversight Committee.
And it is a big gay win in the New York City elections last night.
We'll tell you about that and about the mayoral race. But basically this weekend, Pride is protest, and that's what's happening.
Yes. 5 Democratic senators take over the Kennedy Center to host a Pride event that hopefully will ruffle some feathers.
This was a rogue event. Transgender youth and allies rallied to protest the Supreme Court's blow to gender-affirming care.
Louisiana's law mandating display of the 10 Commandments is struck down by an appellate court.
But that didn't stop Texas from passing a similar bill. But they're also in Texas getting their first out transgender elected official.
Which is good news. On the other hand, we have some tragic news out of Philly. The suspects in the murder of Derwin Matthews, a gay man, have been named, but they remain at large. The crime is no longer considered a hate crime.
A couple of people we lost: Eric Bauman, the influential gay Democratic leader in California, and the man who brought the case that led to civil unions in Vermont.
Trump shuts down the national LGBTQ youth suicide hotline, which is utterly despicable.
What a nice Pride present from the administration.
Well, that's the exact reason why they're doing it.
Well, he is, and I use the word advisedly. I won't use the F word the way he does all the time. But Trump marked Juneteenth, right, on June 19th, by complaining about the cost of a national holiday that celebrates the end of slavery in the United States.
Right. And the Secretary of Defense defended renaming Army bases for failed Confederate generals.
Right. And the ACLU is suing to stop the implementation of Texas's Don't Say Gay law.
Mexico City, gigantic metropolis, celebrates Pride with the world's largest human rainbow flag in history.
We have a picture of that. It's most impressive.
I can't wait to see it.
They've got a good mayor there, and they've got a good mayor in Budapest, where there is so much, in Hungary, so much anti-LGBTQ oppression. But the mayor there says the Pride March will go on despite a ban by the police.
An Iranian missile has destroyed Tel Aviv's last gay bar, Mass Central.
It's part of that war in the Middle East. And the FDA approved a twice-yearly injectable HIV prevention shot. Very good news. But will you be able to get it?
Good question.
All right, let's start in Washington because, the House Oversight Committee lost its chair, who died. Not chair, but Democratic leader, the ranking member. So they had an election this week among the Democrats, and they turned to youth, and they turned to a gay Latino, out gay Representative Robert Garcia, Democrat of Long Beach, California, a breath of fresh air. He beat out a guy, Stephen Lynch, who's 70 from Massachusetts. And he's had a really rapid ascent in the party. He was backed by the Congressional Hispanic Caucus and by the Equality Caucus and the Progressive Caucus. So this is a guy who's he can't be president. He emigrated with his mother from Peru at a young age and became a U.S. citizen only in his early 20s. But he has been really, in terms of the fight against Trump, he's been on the front lines.
Yeah,
he's the guy who went down to El Salvador and said, "What's going on with Andre Jose, Hernandez Romero?"
Yeah,
that we still don't know about that.
And Garcia is very present on social media. He really likes to poke the MAGA right wing in terms of some of the more outrageous things they're doing. About 2 hours ago, Garcia tweeted, quote, "His chairmanship means that we will be leading investigations against the corruption of Donald Trump and those who seek to harm the American people." And of course, the presumption here is that the Democrats are going to win the House in the midterms. And I think that's exactly what Garcia is gearing up for.
Well, of course, we can't presume anything. I mean, that would be the conventional wisdom that will happen. And we certainly hope it does. But we're going to have to work for it.
Yeah.
Let's go to New York. You've seen a lot about the New York elections. One of the things, we're going to talk about the mayoral race. One of the things you may have missed is that my state senator, an out gay man who's an activist, Brad Holman Siegel, has been elected the Manhattan Borough President. We've never had an out gay borough president in the 5 boroughs of New York ever. So he is a first, and he is a strong progressive, and he pretty much won handily. I mean, the final count isn't in, but he's like at 49% or something. So yeah, he will be our next borough president. Back in the day, in the 19th century, Manhattan was the city of New York. That was the whole city. Then they started boroughs in the 1870s and 90s. But so congratulations to Brad. And then,
yes, that's a big win for him, and he's worked very hard, and he's done a lot of good things up in Albany. It's going to be a shame to lose him up in Albany because he's been a leader on a lot of important issues.
Well, maybe you'll move to Chelsea and replace him when he takes his seat in January. And then you all heard about this mayoral race. Now, I had the feeling that this Zoran Mamdani was going to win. There he is. Great smile. This guy was everywhere. He's a democratic socialist. He's the real thing. He had 40,000 volunteers. And his victory over Andrew Cuomo, the disgraced ex-governor of New York, was a total rebuke to the establishment, which did everything in their power to stop this, man from becoming the mayor of New York. They smeared him with ads. They spent tens of millions of dollars against him. They got to pull back because he's the future of the Democratic Party. Some people in some parts of the country, the Democratic Party has to become more moderate. Not against the Trump stuff. We need people who are more aggressive, and he is.
Well, Andy, as I told you, I worked the polls early voting this week. I worked yesterday out in Queens at a poll site. It's work I've done over the years many times. There is a critical mass of young, queer people in this city. I'd say 18 to 30. I dealt with a lot of first-time voters, people who had just registered and showed up to vote for the first time. And especially in Brooklyn, they put Mamdani over the top. And I think what these folks are saying is that we are sick and tired of having to shove 4 and 5 young people into an apartment in Brooklyn in order to pay the rent. These are kids with college degrees. They're bright, they're ambitious, they're patriotic, and they deserve a break. I hope that in November they continue to show up. I would urge everyone, especially if you're a first-time voter, to go to vote.nyc. Vote.nyc. It's the Board of Elections. Make sure your registration lines up correctly all of your information is correct, your date of birth, your address, etc., so that you have no problems voting on November 4th.
Because Mamdani is going to be up against the incumbent mayor, also disgraced Eric Adams, who was indicted by the Biden administration and let off the hook by the Trump administration. And I don't see Eric prevailing, and there will be a Republican candidate, Curtis Sliwa of the Guardian Angels, the guys that come around with the red berets on the subway. So that, and now, Andrew Cuomo has an opportunity to run a third party, but I think he's going to be leaning against that at this point.
Well, I mean, Andy, just to take a moment to look at this victory, and to have the former two-time governor concede basically to a 33-year-old man, kid who went to Bronx Science, who had to ride the subway every day to go to high school. And as you had mentioned earlier, they tried to Willie Horton him. They tried to smear him, and they took a racist and highly bigoted approach to it by spending tens of millions of dollars from outside money. These were, these fat cats who don't even live in New York City.
Well, it's Mike Bloomberg. Mike Bloomberg put $10 million to destroy this guy.
Well, it didn't work.
And the real estate industry, another $2.5 million. It's disgraceful. And I hope that they'll, and I'm a little concerned that people like Chuck Schumer and a lot of the big Democratic officials haven't immediately said, we support our Democratic nominee.
Right.
And we're going to get behind him.
Well, if that is still the case a week from now, when ranked choice voting kicks in and we're getting more results, if there isn't more of a unity type of push, I think that you're going to see an outcry from this critical mass of young voters.
I hope so.
I'm talking about in places like Brooklyn.
We better move on because we've got a lot of news to cover. And I'll give you another thing that changed. We've told you over the years there was this horrible bigot in New York, Fernando Cabrera, a fundamentalist minister who had been on the city council. Eric Adams gave him a big job in his administration. We protested. He tried to get a city council seat back in the Bronx, and he lost. And
yes.
That shows you how the electorate and the city is changing. By the way, the Victory Institute, the Victory Fund, Victory Institute, they have their report out, 2025 out for America, which shows that LGBTQ representation overall increased almost 2.5% from 2024 to 2025, but 198% since reporting began in 2017 under the first Trump administration. So Trump and this right-wing backlash has brought a lot of us, LGBTQ people, you out there, to say, I'm not sitting on the sidelines. I'm going to get in there and I'm running for office and I'm going to try to stop this.
Yeah. I think there are a lot of young people who are ready to take up the torch. The torch has been passed to the next generation. I'm paraphrasing John F. Kennedy.
Absolutely. And by the way, there were huge increases in Asian American and Pacific Islander LGBTQ people elected just in the last year, 33% increase. So things are changing. All right. Let's go to the Stonewall National Monument.
Yep.
This is very depressing. They will not, what you see there are three little transgender flags that individuals have put in the dirt because the Park Service, under the edict from Trump, can't acknowledge the existence of transgender people at the Stonewall. So people are planting them in the store. So, my attitude is this. We fought very hard to get that federal designation, right? We got it from Barack Obama. I say, give it back to the federal government. We don't want the Park Service controlling this if they can't tell the true story.
Well, the community isn't going to stand for it. And there are going to continue to be these acts of civil disobedience, if you will. And it'll be interesting to see what happens this week. And Stonewall is right there in the very cradle of the gay rights movement. And it's where millions of people are going to be congregating over the next several days or so. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
But But now the Park Service is an anti-trans organization, basically.
Oh, absolutely.
They should be gone. We should
right,
be removed from it. That's what I'm saying. City should take it back. And you know what? I don't even want the city and state to take it. We just need to take it back. Now, Chicago is having their 55th world's, Chicago has this distinction of having the world's first LGBTQ Pride March. They did it the day before we did it in New York in 1970. So they're doing theirs this week. They gather Saturday, June 28th at noon, and at Washington Square Park. So check out your local listings. Let's talk about what happened at the Kennedy Center. Sure.
Let's talk about the fact that senators from the heartland, from Colorado, I mean, Elizabeth Warren from Massachusetts is also in on this. 5 senators, Tammy Baldwin, John Hickenlooper of Colorado took the lead on this, and they sort of surreptitiously rented out some space in the Kennedy Center to basically give a middle finger to the bigots in the Trump administration who are not honoring Pride this month.
Right. They did their own little Pride thing. They didn't tell the center that exactly what it was going to be about, but they got all these kinds of gay people performing. My God, Javier Munoz from Hamilton, Brandon Aronowitz from Falsettos, Beth Malone sang an old-fashioned love story from The Wild Party. Harvey Fierstein wrote a skit for it. So this was all happening. And what Hickenlooper said was, what's happening in the world is deeply concerning, but even in our darkest hours, we must continue to seek out the light. The LGBTQ community has long embodied this resilience, maintaining joy and creativity in the face of adversity. This did not make Richard Grenell, the out gay or homosexual head of the Kennedy Center, very happy. He called Hickenlooper. Hickenlooper said that Grenell was agitated, but not unreasonable.
Yeah.
Grenell didn't cancel it, but they had a plan to go to a backup theater if he did.
Yeah, is Grenell going to show up and attend, or what is he?
No, it happened. It has already happened on Monday.
Oh.
He keeps putting out statements. We welcome everybody, but not for partisan political pranks. Anyway, so that was all right. The New York Stock Exchange. The Stock Exchange.
Yes.
My father was a stockbroker. They displayed the Progress Pride flag there outside the famous stock exchange down there on Wall Street.
Right.
Ann writes, corporations may be retreating, but the stock exchange is hanging in.
Right. I think it's a very becoming look, actually, with that, neo-Greco, neo-Roman architecture. The flag looks quite attractive.
It does. It stands out. And of course, it's up so high that it's very hard to tear down and burn. So in a Colorado neighborhood in Longmont, they've had somebody tearing down flags and going after them. So we have a video report on what happened there.
New at 10, it may be hard to see on this black and white doorbell footage, but if you look closely, you can see a man wearing a face covering tearing down a pride flag. And this is not the first time that it's happened. As your reporter Alan Janae explains, this is happening over and over again, and the Longmont neighborhood is now banding together as things get more serious.
It's video at night, capturing what is the Harvest Junction Village neighborhood rattled.
Is making a move to put us away, to keep us out of the light.
Cheryl Kohler has had enough.
I'm 3 flagpoles in and no pride flag to show for.
There's a bent flagpole in front of her home that used to look like this.
Is trying to silence the LGBTQ community, and particularly because we keep putting the flag back up, wants us to stay silent, wants us to reduce our visibility as well.
She's not the only one. Flags all over the neighborhood have been ripped down.
It was a banner flag just hanging down, and the man just came and and ripped it right out, ripped the nails right out, tossed the bar in our yard, and took off.
Mike McFerrin worries about his kids with a man on their porch.
It's a hate crime.
Police have been aware of a number of incidents in which flags have been torn down. But things recently got more serious. That's where you've been growing your tomatoes back there.
Yep, right here.
Lindsay Bailey was working in the garage of her home, which had a flag, when an angry man came down the street.
They rode right by on their motor scooter and just swore at me about how they hated Pride Month and lots of expletives.
The man seems to be using a scooter to get around. This time he turned around and came back. Lindsay's husband came out with a bat and the man yelled at him,
threatening that they were going to harm him, that he would be back.
Amid all of it, neighbors have banded together.
It's no more or less likely to happen here than anywhere else, I think. But it happened here, and so we're responding.
You're drawing a line.
We're trying to.
Immediately starting a fundraising campaign to replace flags. Nobody has objected, and now other neighbors have added flags too. This is part of you. This is part of your belief.
If people with power don't stand up, then who will?
And so they are standing up. While the man remains a mystery and police say they are gathering evidence and statements, this neighborhood is saying, not here.
You're going to keep putting your flag back up, though.
I'm definitely putting my flag back up.
In Longmont, Ellen Janae covering Colorado First.
There you go. And it's that kind of spirit that has led U.S. Senator Hickenlooper to take the action that he did at the Kennedy Center. And it just reinforces what I have always felt, that across this country, there is very strong support for gay and lesbian people. There always has been. And it's just a question of organizing people, getting people to stand up for us.
Well, so there was a protest against that horrible Supreme Court decision, which lets the states deny gender affirming care to youth. We have a picture. This is in Union Square. Trans people will always exist. It attracted a couple of hundred people. Look, I can remember when we got a bad decision from the Supreme Court on sodomy in 1986. We turned out 10,000 people, but not this time. But we did hear from, and don't go to this right away until I introduce it, Chase Strangio of the ACLU was the out transgender lawyer who argued the case before the Supreme Court. And here he is speaking at the rally.
Or you've been doing this for 50 years. We come together at a time of crisis for so many communities. And our fight for trans justice is inextricable from the fight to preserve due process and justice for immigrants in this country. It is inextricable from the fight for racial justice to stop this administration's cruel grant eliminations for people studying health disparities for communities of color. And it is inextricable from the fights for bodily autonomy that the Supreme Court continues to wade into to take away our access to medically necessary health care. And so, here's what I have to say about this decision. It takes a lot for 3 young people and their parents to go up against their government and all the way to the Supreme Court. So first and foremost, I want to give a huge shout out to our clients, and I want us all to cheer for them right now, because that's right. And to every single person who organized to support young people's access to health care, who is fighting back against the capitulation from the attacks on this administration, for every person who is outside the Supreme Court, and for every person who is here today, thank you, thank you, thank you. The fight is not over. It is continuing as it has for centuries. We have always been here. We will always be here. And we are going to be in their face every single day. So yes, this decision is cruel. It is awful. They went out of their way, Justice Barrett and Justice Thomas, to give even more discriminatory treatment to us. But, that's right, boo them. And as bad as this decision is, it does not foreclose our legal battles in the federal courts against this administration, against other attacks on our rights and well-being. It does not stop our litigation in state court. It does not stop our legislative advocacy. And most importantly, it does not stop the care we take of our communities.
There we go.
Bingo.
You know, they all tried to put a good face on it, but this is a big setback.
Yes.
And you know, it's not just this decision; it's that the administration says Medicare and Medicaid can't cover trans care. I mean, that kind of stuff that we're up against, and I don't know how we're going to do on those things. So I feel for our trans brothers and sisters and everybody in between. There were 9 transgender organizers who got arrested at the Supreme Court over this on June 20th, the Gender Liberation Movement. And GLAAD attacked the New York Times as being the source for Clarence Thomas's concurrence in the anti-trans decision. New York Times reporting, which was very anti-trans. Now, of course, I don't think Clarence Thomas respects the New York Times in any way, shape, or form, but he likes to cite it when it's his way. And then they had a rally in Garden State Equality for trans youth in Asbury Park, New Jersey. We got a picture of that. They took the case to the Jersey Shore, reaching people at the beach. Now, California has sued the Trump administration over its demand that the state abolish its transgender inclusive sports policy. And so we'll see how that turns out. They're fighting it at least.
So, Andy, in terms of the Supreme Court loss, is there a legislative remedy to codify gender-affirming care for youth, for Americans seeking such care?
We'll be lucky if the states are trying to do it.
Yeah.
New York tried to do it, but again, New York did it in the last legislative session. But if the administration says, well, your hospitals won't get any Medicare or Medicaid funding, what are they going to do? So this all has to be sorted out. And then there's here's a real kicker from the administration. They're going to shut down the National LGBTQ Youth Suicide Lifeline by July 17th. This was approved by Congress in 2020 under the last Trump administration. And so there'll no longer be a special option for people calling about LGBTQ people, which is a ton of the calls that they get, run by the Trevor Project.
Well, it was option 3 when you called the hotline before, and you got shunted through to ostensibly a specialist, hopefully a gay or lesbian person who was sensitive to what it is that you were going through. The administration now says, no need to worry, because we're still going to help anybody who calls the hotline, and everybody is equal. Everybody at risk will get the help they need, but we know that that's not the case.
And we just believe that trans people don't exist. So, come on.
Right. And
So-
it brings me back to thinking of my own adolescence and the despair that I felt and all of the trials and tribulations it took to feel that I was standing on my own 2 feet. That took a long time, until I was in my 20s. And, these hotlines are a way of making sure not only that you're saving kids' lives, but that you have a productive society, that you have people who are able to enter the workforce, people who are able to get their college degrees. But everything here is with these MAGA fanatic lunatics. It's about scoring cheap points and hurting people.
This administration doesn't want anybody to have college degrees. They're trying to destroy higher education, public education. Excuse me. So, as you can see, we have a dictator in the United States, Donald Trump. This actual statue, appeared on the National Mall through last Sunday, mocking Trump's pathetic failure of a birthday parade. And it's funny. It was an 8-foot tall sculpture of a golden hand and bearing down on the Statue of Liberty. And it had quotes on the side. President Trump is a very bright and talented man, Vladimir Putin. We do have a great deal of shared values. Bolsonaro from Brazil. Nice quote from Kim Jong-un. Anyway, and they did get a permit for this. And of course, the administration says, if he was a dictator, this wouldn't be up there.
Well, they did a great job of depicting his thumb. If you saw that thumb sticking up into the sky, You know, it's that thumb that he's constantly sticking up in those photos where he's trying to make it look like he's a tough guy.
And here's the thing. If you go to national parks now, they have these, what do they call them, QR codes next to the exhibits. If you see anything that you think is improper partisan ideology, you're supposed to put your thing on that and report it. Now, so
what do we, and then what do we do at Gettysburg? Are we going to report on the Confederate monuments, or are we going to report on the Union monuments? You know, what was more of your cause? Were you more in favor of slavery, or were you more in favor of emancipation? This is an absurdity that we can no longer count on experts to depict history for us, but that everybody should become a historian. Everybody should become an archivist.
And, you know, how are they going to square the story of Japanese Americans shipped off to incarceration camps during World War II with their stated goal from the administration that this is an example of the unmatched record of advancing liberty in the United States? We have a lot of sins in our past, a lot of them, and we're committing more by the day.
Well, and there are also a lot of things that are important to tell about that we should be proud of, that we did end slavery, and that the Battle of Gettysburg was about sending Robert E. Lee packing back to the South, and that it was the beginning of the end of the Army of Northern Virginia. But again, as I said earlier, we have a Secretary of Defense who wants to rename army bases for failed Confederate generals.
Who were in rebellion against the United States of America.
They were traitors.
Yes. All right. Okay. And then there's the way that Donald marked Juneteenth. You know, he said we have too many non-working holidays. This is costing us millions of dollars. Now, let's get rid of these things. Juneteenth. And he's the guy who campaigned on making Juneteenth the federal holiday in 2020. I mean, do people not know how much he lied to you to get into office again so that he could destroy this country?
And Biden flew commercial and went to Galveston, Texas, where ostensibly slavery actually ended on that day, and had a service with African-American leaders, a very dignified, rather low-key service. He wasn't, getting a huge press response, but that was Biden's response. And how much more appropriate than what the President of the United States was squawking about on his social media site.
Right. We may be burying the headline because while all these distractions, the Mideast war, which was horrible, and all these other things are happening, the big, horrible GOP bill is hurtling towards passage. And they seem to be ready. There are some dissents in the Senate, but I don't think enough. However, the parliamentarian of the Senate has ruled that at least a few of its awful provisions are not germane to a budget reconciliation bill, including a measure to push some of the costs of federal food aid onto the states. And she blocked a provision, this is very important, which would have limited the court's ability to hold Trump officials in contempt by requiring plaintiffs to post potentially enormous bonds when asking the courts to issue preliminary injunctions. She says that doesn't have anything to do with a budget bill. Go away. Right. So this woman, who has been the Senate parliamentarian, and if the Republicans want to overrule her, they need 60 votes, and they're not going to get them.
I thought it was a simple majority. No. I thought it was a simple majority with the Byrd rule.
Overrule the parliamentarian.
Okay. Well, I mean,
to pass the reconciliation bill is 50 votes, right? Or but not. This is a parliamentary maneuver.
Right. Well, I mean, the bad news is that this bill is so gigantic and so arcane, and they packed so much trickery into it that it's hard to ferret out. But the good news is that it appears to be that the Democrats, Richard Derwin from Illinois and Cory Booker from New Jersey, other diligent truth seekers are trying to get the crap out of this gigantic bill that basically looking to undermine the republic.
They don't have any power. I mean, Tom Tillis, the Republican from North Carolina, said, don't pass this. It's going to kill Medicaid. But what's his name? A fossil, Mitch McConnell from Kentucky said, oh, don't worry. In a year and a half, by the elections, they're going to forget about all this.
Well, Mike Lee's, this MAGA right-winger from Utah, Mike Lee, who pissed off people last week when he put out that despicable tweet after the assassination of the Minnesota lawmaker, he's put into this bill the provision to begin selling off federal lands, ostensibly for housing and development, and it's creating a huge backlash, even among GOP voters from the Midwest and the West who want to keep these lands open for just hunting and fishing and camping and that sort of thing. So anyway, we'll see what happens.
We just have to move on. We got a lot of news to cover. In Louisiana, a federal appeals court blocked Louisiana from enforcing a law requiring the display of the Ten Commandments in all classrooms, and including public schools and universities. The three-judge panel, they called it, clearly unconstitutional. But they'll try to go to the Supreme Court. But that didn't stop Texas. Governor Abbott signed a bill requiring the Ten Commandments to be displayed by September 1st. Okay. Now let's some other news. In San Antonio, we told you that they elected their first lesbian mayor there, Gina Ortiz-Jones, but they also reelected a gay guy named Jalen McKee Rodriguez to their city council. Reelected. We don't always talk about people getting reelected, but he's an openly gay black man. But he's going on parental leave on August 1st, so the council gets to appoint an interim council member, and they picked Leo Castillo Anguiano to serve in his place. We got a picture of him too, and he's a gay youth worker, and he's transgender. So this will be the first transgender elected official in the state of Texas.
Well, congratulations to the both of them.
And Texas is being sued over its "Don't Say Gay" law that bans discussion of all these kinds of issues in schools.
Right, another ridiculous waste of time.
Right. Pride events continue to make crazy people violent in Marion County, Florida. A guy named Michael Wilcox was threatening to shoot up the local Pride festival. He posted about it. He says, you can't expect God to do all the work. And this was, near the anniversary of the Pulse massacre down there. So someone reported him, and, it's just, this is what happens. And we told you also about the murder in Philadelphia of Derwin Matthews Jr., a beloved figure there in Philadelphia. That's 3 pictures of him. He was killed outside a gay bar right after Pride on June 2nd. I'm not talking about it as a hate crime, but he was gunned down right at the end of Pride. And they did identify 2 suspects, Nysheen Hinson Rackley left, and Tariq Ransom. They're fugitives. So if you know anything about them, contact the Philadelphia police. And in San Francisco, police apprehended a guy who vandalized the Big Pink Triangle up on the Twin Peaks. Just terrible. Let's talk about this. The survivors of abuse at Ohio State University. You saw the documentary?
Yeah.
These are the people who were abused, mostly by, who was the guy, Dr. Richard Strauss, who's now dead. But Jim Jordan was the assistant coach there. So what did you think of the documentary?
Well, what's happened is that this story has been percolating beneath the surface for a very, very long time. The documentary has really brought it to the front, and it's going to force, I think, a few questions. Number one, how has Jim Jordan risen politically, and who enabled him, who funded his campaigns? How has he been able to get reelected, number one? And number two, what laws are in existence where you can either pursue a criminal prosecution or you can do a civil lawsuit to try to get to win some sort of penalty that is commensurate with the crimes that Strauss himself directly committed, but which Jim Jordan allegedly abetted.
Jim
It
Jordan
was
is a very powerful member of the House and a Republican, and he gets reelected because he's in a safe district and he can't seem to be beaten, but he always denies these charges, but lots of testimony that he knew about what was going on.
Well, it'll be interesting to see just how much of a loudmouth he continues to be in the wake of what this documentary has said.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about some people we lost. We lost a guy named Stannard Stan Baker. He's a deacon at the Cathedral Church of St. Paul in Burlington, Vermont. He was the lead plaintiff in Baker v. Vermont, which was the 2000 case that established civil unions in Vermont. The court in Vermont ordered that to the legislature, you got to give these people equal benefits. So they did. He was 79 years old. He died on June 23rd of an apparent heart attack. It was a groundbreaking case because we didn't have any statewide rights anywhere in the country up until that point. And this guy worked I believe, as a psychotherapist, and of course was very active in the Episcopal Church. The case also included 2 lesbian couples. And then we have more details on the death of Anne Burrell, the Food Network star. That's her with her husband, Stuart Claxton, who found her lying unresponsive in the bathroom shower. Well, apparently it's being investigated as a possible drug overdose. They found about 100 pills around her body. And so she died there on June 17th at the age of 55.
Right. It's a very sad story. Tragic.
Somebody else we lost, controversial figure to a great extent, but also an influential one, Eric Bauman.
Yep.
He was the Democratic leader in California. Really, he was motivated in part by the AIDS crisis. He got involved. He grew the LA County Democratic Party. He became, turned the party around and got a lot of people elected. He was the first openly gay and first Jewish person to chair the party. But in 2018, it was reported that he made crude sexual remarks and engaged in some unwanted touching and intimidation with people in professional settings. So he withdrew and said he was going to seek treatment. He only surfaced recently again to host a radio show. He is survived by his husband and partner of 42 years, Michael Andreychuk.
Yeah.
Okay. International news. Let's show them that flag in Mexico. This is made up of 6,000 human beings turning themselves into a flag there in Mexico City. This is so impressive. Organized by the mayor of Mexico City, Clara Brugada, who joined the crowd and led the choreography and said, Mexico is and will continue to be the city of rights and freedoms. And wow. So we don't get that in many cities. And
contrast that to Washington, D.C., and what just recently happened there under the fascist Trump administration.
There were no rainbow flags in the military parade. And then, very importantly, Budapest, right?
Yeah.
We told you that the government passed a constitutional amendment. You can't have public gay demonstrations. It hurts children.
Yeah.
Passed overwhelmingly in the Hungarian parliament. So the mayor of Budapest, Gergely Karaszkoni, there he is. He says Pride is going to go ahead in his city despite the fact that it's banned by the police. They will organize it, and there could be confrontations here, but he's going to do it. And there are going to be a bunch of people from the European Union who are going to come down there and march with them. Technically, you risk a 500 euro fine if you violate the rights of children this way, according to the government.
Right, and the conservative Catholic Cardinal of Budapest, who's a big pal of the fascist president Viktor Orban, the cardinal had to suspend last year a priest, one of his acolytes, because this fella was doing gay porn on the side. How do you explain this?
Father Gergo Bessi, and there he is, Deputy Prime Minister of Hungary. So he's been exposed. He's the guy who blessed, the parliament and everything, and does everything for Orban. He spoke out against LGBTQ propaganda. But he was having a good time on the side, wasn't he?
Well, I have to tell you, this is a very, very peculiar fetish. People who are into having sex with priests who are part of an organization that vilify you. I guess, what is it? They're turned on by the collars and the chrism. Let's put chrism on each other's faces. I mean, it just still boggles my mind at the number of gay priests that are out there and how the organization continues to exert so much political influence.
Okay, we should move along. There was a protest in London at the Hungarian embassy that drew about 200 people. There's our friend Peter Tatchell in the middle of that picture. They drew a lot of people to protest the ban in Hungary, and we'll see what happens in Budapest this weekend when they march. We're seeking justice for the slain Filipino ex-scribe, LGBTQ activist Ali Makalintal. She was shot by an unknown gunman in General Santos City. She's part of the leading rights group there, and the Rainbow Group there, a national alliance of LGBTQ organizations, called for an investigation and justice for her. Political killings are not uncommon there. On the other hand, Vice President Sara Duterte, she's the daughter of Rodrigo Duterte, who was pretty much a monster when he was president, except Rodrigo even made some pro-gay noises. But she urged Filipinos to protect the rights of lesbians, gays, bisexuals, transgender. She says it's part of their program. So that's encouraging. Any port in a storm. And then we've got a story from, about what's going on with the war and missiles going back and forth between Iran and Israel.
Yeah.
An Iranian missile destroyed Tel Aviv's last gay bar.
Yep, it was called MASH Central, and it was the city's only gay bar. But that's a little misleading because Tel Aviv is a very gay town, and my Israeli gay friends have always described Tel Aviv and Israel in general as being a very gay-friendly place. The bar was located in Alamy Street, which is named after a former British High Commissioner over there during the World War I era, and it was in the diplomatic section of the town where there were embassies and consuls and whatnot. And it's another tragic casualty of this war that's going on, where it's a hot war. People are getting killed as we speak.
Right, and in Russia, we told you about all the anti-gay laws there, but they have really stepped up enforcement. It's almost like what ICE does in this country.
Yeah.
And it's a big moneymaker for them. It's a witch hunt. All right, some AIDS news. The FDA has approved the twice-yearly injectable HIV prevention shot, and under the name Apretude, an injectable form of PrEP that is administered. This is 3 years after the approval of Apretude, which is every other month. This is twice a year. And this is lenacapavir by Gilead. Apretude was used by 21,000 Americans The daily pills are taken by 500,000, but having a twice yearly injection could really, help end it. But of course, the charge for the drug is $28,218.
Right.
Injections. So,
well, we have to see how and if it could be scaled up. I just want to share one quote. This really has the possibility of ending HIV transmission, said Greg Millett, the head of AMFAR, which is the HIV organization, the organization that has helped save so many lives. And Andy, I have to tell you, in discussing this story with you before the show and reading more about it, in many ways, this is the most important story of the week. I mean, this has a possibility of changing life. I mean, consider for a moment that it has taken 40 years to get to this point, and how many lives could have been saved had we had this life-saving medication earlier. And it is now all at risk because of who's in the White House, just like it was 40 years ago.
Yes, under the Affordable Care Act, preventive services have to be covered. And the administration is trying to end that.
Yes.
They're in court trying to end that, or just trying to, dispense with it.
Which is just another reason why the Democrats have to win in these midterms.
Right. Okay. This week we learned that the federal HIV guidelines, which are long considered the most national standard for clinical care, may lose the support of the NIH. They're pulling out. I mean, it's almost like we're going to have to do medicine privately, like we did at the beginning of the epidemic when the government wouldn't do anything for us, because the federal government is not going to help.
So, I want to defer to you because of your expert knowledge in this area. Where are we at exactly in terms of HIV funding and HIV treatment in this country, domestically, not necessarily abroad?
They're cutting off funds to HIV prevention organizations right and left. I mean, they're all getting defunded, especially because they treat LGBTQ people, especially because they treat transgender people. So they're just cutting them off.
So what's going to happen, therefore, is that with the vulnerable communities where HIV was still a threat, that threat is now going to be, there's going to be a force multiplier behind that threat, and the transmissions are just simply going to spread.
Not to depress you during Pride Week, but the goal of the administration is a resurgence of HIV here and around the world.
Right.
It's certainly resurging around the world. Then we have our friends at Broadway Cares. They held their Broadway Bears come out burlesque thing at the, where did they do it? At the, whatever. They raised a record $2.5 million.
It's a lot of money.
It was, it's for the young, but they had a lot of great stars there. I didn't go this year. You kind of have to stand through it all night, but people are really into it. It's a strip show with a lot of stars. And Nicole Scherzinger, who won the Tony for Sunset Boulevard, she sang a number, and we're going to link to that in our email. If you sign up for our email at gayusatv.org, you'll get our weekly email, and this will be one of the extras this week. And as we say, it's also your chance to make your Pride donation to Gay USA. Okay.
There you have it.
I want our director to chime in and tell us how much time we have. Well,
6.
About 3.
Yeah, 6.
About 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
All
Okay.
right.
Brokeback Mountain is being released after 20 years. No, that's not Brokeback. That's Heartstoppers. That's Brokeback
There we
Mountain.
go.
There's not going to go to Heartstoppers. There's not going to be a 4th season for that. But they're going to make a movie. These kids, Charlie and Nick, Joe Locke and Kit Connor, Billy Porter and Marisha Wallace are going to reprise their roles in Cabaret at the Kit Kat Club in New York. They did it in London starting July 22nd. And that's what we have. And we have time here. So why don't we show that famous national anthem sung in Spanish, Star Spangled Banner by Neza at, I guess this was at Dodger Stadium, wasn't it?
Yep.
Service doing that, and she was very well received. And these are small acts of rebellion, like the Kennedy Center thing, like this to this administration's.
Well, the Dodgers just put up $1 million for the folks who are at risk of being abducted by these thugs who are roaming around LA and other California cities trying to round them up.
Well, nice to be with you, Mick, and we'll be back next week, and we thank you all for joining us.
It was a pleasure to be here, and I look forward to Ann coming back as well.
Okay.
Happy Pride.
Happy Pride, everybody. See you at the one of the marches.